What's toughness mean to you in your experience, both as one of the world's greatest athletes, being able to go to the Olympics and set national records, as someone who has, it's not easy to write a book, to get through a project of that size, to film a movie, to even just to do improv comedy sometimes, right? These are all tough things in their own way. How would you define, and obviously you've been through an incredibly tough personal experience. How would you define toughness, taking all that into account?
I think toughness is the ability to hang in there during a period of time that you've committed to a goal, as long as there's no bad pain going on or injury. Like it's being able to kind of be in an incubator for a period of time that you've committed to. So whether you're like, look, I'm running this race, and if I'm not injured, I'm going to keep putting my foot in front of the other, or I have this goal and I'm going to be on my own team and commit for this period of time. I think toughness is like committing to a process, and also, all the while having the bird's eye view of being able to pull yourself out if some red flag comes up. But barring, if there's no red flags, toughness is your ability to be in there when you need to be in there. And
right.
Yeah. And I think toughness requires composure. So it's not like this like out of control toughness. Toughness isn't like a feral animal. I think toughness is composure.
Mm. So I assume that mention of composure is probably specific to like in race events and when they say action as you're acting. But are you referring to other things as well, like periods of time during your mental health or your mental injury? Did you feel like composure was important to you during that as well?
Yeah, I felt like it was important to accept certain things as truths, like that I wasn't going to feel better for a really long time, to have the ability to wake up every day and not be surprised by my pain anymore, but focus on my actions. So probably toughness is also the ability to suspend your feelings in moments and just focus on your actions, because your feelings, at least the way that I see it and the way I was told, your actions change first, then your thoughts, then your feelings, in that order only. And so probably toughness is the ability to give more credit and more attention to the actions than the feelings, and accept that the feelings will change because of the actions.
Love that. That's a really cool way. I think you kind of hinted at it before when you were saying, if there's a red flag, clearly you pull yourself out. If you've got incredible pain that's getting worse, that's not something that we want to encourage people to push through, but almost accepting not the red flags, but the orange flags. This is kind of uncomfortable. This is something I'm going to have to push through. And the fact that, it rings true. I remember we had Apollo Ono on the show a while back, and he talked about the fact that he only got really good when he started to accept and embrace a certain type of pain, because that was where he got his power from, that made him push a little harder in certain races, etc. Obviously, significant pain, particularly whether it's physical or mental and emotional, is not something we want to encourage people to go out of their way and find or to put up with for too long. But I think that red flag, orange flag is a nice little, I'm going to play off your metaphor and add that in there. Now, the cool thing, this is why I mentioned at the start of the show that you are possibly the best guest we can ever have, is because you've lived at this amazing level of performance. Not only have you done it athletically, you've done it in the arts as well. And at the same time, so you not only understand the mental requirements of performing at that level, at the same time you've been through. So one of the other driving factors of this show is to help people deal with mental stress, pressure, things that could lead people down the wrong path or towards more pain. But if handled properly, and more importantly, if they seek the right support like your dad got you to do, then we can still have great lives and get through some tough stuff as well. You, having gone through what you've been through, turned into and are one of the more outspoken mental health advocates in sport. And it's a really cool passion that I applaud you for, and it's been cool looking at some of your stuff. How did that come to be? Like, how did you decide, not just because there are plenty of people who go through it, and this is a great point I heard you make, I think, in a different interview where you said, it's not just about saying this is the thing in sport. Like, yeah, no shit. Like, it's a thing in society. People have this thing. But you didn't just have it and then get back to work. You had it and it changed your focus. Like you're passionate about speaking out about this and educating. Why that step for you?
Yeah, well, I think it's just shocking to me how uneducated and how unprepared I was for facing what I experienced based on my family history. It's like I should have been a kind of red flag candidate for what I went through. And that I was so unprepared means that anyone could be unprepared, I think. And I think once I realized how simple the vocabulary shifts were, but how profound, I felt like it was really important to share whatever I could, because those vocabulary shifts of seeing my brain as a body part, of thinking about my actions first, and various other things were so epiphanal that I needed to share those things. And also, I had an awareness that I have seen the very worst things I think a person might see someone do to themselves, and what I've seen my mom do. And I felt I was the highest risk depression you can be. And so if anybody falls somewhere in between that, I feel that I can uniquely speak to them. And I remember, when you asked at the beginning of this interview, when did you commit to the Olympic dream? It was when my Olympic coach, or it was my college coach who was an Olympian, told me, this is a dream you could take seriously. I think you should do it. That's when I was like, oh, wow. Hearing that from my dad doesn't mean as much as hearing it from this guy. And so I'm also aware from my perspective that hearing certain things from certain people is more impactful than hearing the same thing from somebody else. And I think that I'm in a position to speak to certain people, and I will do it because I can. And if it speaks to even one person, that can save someone's life. And I do think that even though most of what I put out on social media has this, I think a sweetness to it, there's a melancholy and a sharpness to it that if you understand where I came from, you see. And I think it's important at some point to share where that comes from. And for me, that felt most appropriate in a book where you can kind of tell that whole story. And I love words and I love writing and I'm good at communicating. So I felt that this was a natural thing to find myself doing. And I also have found that I have something to say about it. That some people are like, well, we don't know what to do. And I'm like, I know what to do. I know what it would have been nice for someone to do for me. I know what would have been nice to hear. I know what would have been not nice to hear. And so it's also just the idea that whenever there's been a question about it, it's been so obvious to me now that I've been through this whole thing, what I could say about it, that I'm saying it now.